And over at 2Minute Tennis. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited that I get to be on here for a bit and answer your questions. So, as you pop in, feel free to type in your questions, and I'll do my best to get to everyone's. I try to keep up and and keep the answers short. So we'll see how well I do with that. So I want to start out by giving you a great tip or a few tips that are going to help you get rid of the waiter's tray. And first, on your serve, obviously. And first, we have to understand why we want to get rid of that move. When you're hitting a serve, it is in your best interest that you do not have your strings facing up prior to hitting the ball. And the reason is when your strings face up, then you're forced to make this move in order to make contact. And this is not a fast way to move the racket. The faster way to move the racket through contact, and thank you all so much for being here. We got 17 people in the room. Great job. Thanks for hitting the like button. I appreciate it. Really spreads the word that we're doing this. The goal here is in order to get rid of the waiter's tray, is to first make sure that you have the correct grip. So you got to make sure that your hand is more on top of the racket in a continental. You don't want your hand on the side of the racket, but more up on top. Not all the way on the very top, which is going to be an Eastern backhand for the one-hander, but on the continental is going to help. On the top right panel, if you're a right-hander, is going to make all the difference in getting the correct grip. Now, what we want to use is a motion as we serve that looks like this, where the racket goes from facing one direction to the other direction. So let's first understand the concept. And if you've been watching me for any amount of time, you know I'm a big believer in the birthday hat move, right? So thank you all for being here. We're going to try to answer your questions. So feel free to write them in the chat. So if you have not hit serves with a birthday hat on, I definitely suggest that you learn to do this because the waiter's tray motion, where you'll see beginners and even some intermediate players, they'll toss the ball and they'll make this move. And the racket is always on the side of them, right? So if they're a lefty, it's on this side. What some players are surprised to learn is that the service motion, we talk about the racket drop, but the service motion is more lasso like than we think. The service motion actually passes in over the head, and when you do that with a party hat on, with the birthday hat on, you'll actually hit the racket into the party hat, knocking the hat off from front to back, from front to back. That creates a circular motion. And all of a sudden, you get instant feedback as to whether or not you move the racket in over the head. Look at Federer serve, look at Nadal, look at Kyrgios, look at Djokovic, right? Watch their racket. Sam Groth, the fastest server of all time, watch their racket, and their racket comes right in over the head. So I don't just say imagine wearing a birthday hat. I want you to wear a physical birthday hat. This is why I wear them in my videos so that you can see, I need to actually wear a physical birthday hat so you can learn that circular motion. Now, with this, you want to learn, and we're talking about how to get rid of the waiter's tray. First, it's the proper continental grip. And an easy way to make sure that you have the proper continental grip is just make sure that your racket face is open at the beginning of your serve. Like, please don't have your strings pointing down. You can always tell by someone's address and the way they start to serve. If they're serving and they're bouncing the ball with their racket like this, and they're making this move, they've got the wrong grip. The wrong grip points the strings down. Look at Nadal. The correct grip opens the racket up at about a 45-degree angle. Okay, that's the continental. The second thing is to learn the circular motion. So when you lift the racket up, you want your palm down, your strings down. You can even curl the wrist to really accentuate that so that you can knock the birthday hat off from front to back. But here's the drill that will absolutely help you, or if you're a coach, your students get rid of the waiter's tray. And thank you so much for coming in. We got 30 people here. Only 8 likes. It takes a half a second to hit that like button, but trust me, it makes a world of difference in my life and my family's life. So thank you so much. So here's the drill you want to learn. You want to learn to hit the wrong side of the racket against the ball. Knock off the birthday hat from front to back, right? So I'm starting here, like I'm going to salute. You can see that. I knock off the birthday hat and then I hit the wrong side of the racket. By doing this, believe it or not, my swing is like 90% correct. Because if you look at Felix Auger-Aliassime, When he brings his racket up to the ball initially, or as the elbow drives up and the racket drops down, as he approaches, his strings are facing down. And if he wanted to, he could just hit the wrong side of the racket. Now, he doesn't, of course, and he turns, and that's the supinated position, and you learn to pronate. And that's actually how you want to serve, and you get a ton of power and pop into the ball. But you'll never make that move if you come around with the forehand grip, you don't make this circular motion knocking off the birthday hat, and you point your strings to the sky. If your strings face to the sky, then you've got to snap. Now, just imagine, so I'm 46 years old. When I was a kid, to take my temperature, they didn't have the ear thing or like the forehead thing. They would put a mercury thermometer under your tongue, right? And so you'd get the temperature, and the nurse, she'd go like this, and she'd snap the mercury thermometer like this. Now just look at what I'm doing. I'm not snapping my wrist. My wrist is staying flexed, and I'm just turning. It's not like if you walk into a doctor's office and the nurse is putting thermometers under people's tongues, and then he or she are going like this to snap the thermometer, get the mercury back to, like, just run, like, get the heck out of there, because they don't know what they're doing. It's this move, right? So when we serve, we're just trying to snap a thermometer at the top of our swing. That's the fastest way. And that's that snap you see at the top of that Perry card serve, or the Ben Shelton, really Ben Shelton serve, where you make this move at the top. That's only possible if you come around like this first. So what you want to learn to do is actually hit the wrong side of the racket, which forces you into that strings down position. And then you want to do that enough, proper grip, knock off the birthday hat, wrong side of the racket. And then once you get into this position, the goal is to approach the ball for as long as you can and then turn at the last second. I'm using finger quotes. So that's the feeling you're going to have. So you go to the ball with the wrong side of the racket. Now watch, I'm going to go to the ball and then turn at the last second. That's the snap that you get at the top. And that's only possible if you got the proper continental grip, the circular motion, and you go up to the ball with the wrong side of the racket. Then the snap is not necessarily inevitable, but it solves the problem of coming around with the strings down. Look at John Isner before he serves. Look at most pros. They don't just come up on edge, they actually come up with their strings pointing down. And then that's what requires them to pronate, and they get a ton of power. All right, let's see here. Let's see some questions. You know what I wish? I wish I could. Hey, what's up, 123 Rockchild? Good to see you. You were on here before. Um, I'm just like clicking around here. Let's see. Let's see. Top chat. I'm just trying to click around. Hey, Nick, good to see you here. Um, if any of you ever retouch, check out the tennis journal, guys. All right. We will. Um, Retouch off. I guess I'm supposed to look prettier if I click retouch. I don't know. Do I look any better, guys? Do I look any better? Probably not. All right, let's see some questions we got here. Should the racket drop leg drive feel like you're throwing with your elbow leading rather than your hand? Oh, absolutely. Nick, great question. Great question. So you don't want to lead with your hand. Now, I'm not very flexible, Nick. So I have a hard time actually doing this. It's one of uh, your flexibility in flexibility in your shoulder is critical for getting a lot of speed on the serve, because what you want is the racket and the body to go opposite, right? Would you say grow some hair? Got the same hair with retouch? That's right. I wish. Yeah. The moment I met my wife, I started losing my hair. Coincidence? I wonder. But here's the idea: when the racket hits the birthday hat, or just before you hit the birthday hat, you want to go up, right? So your body should be going up from the leg drive as the racket goes down. The goal, Nick, and you should look at your serve on video, is see if you can get your elbow higher than your hand. So most players cannot. Most players cannot get the elbow higher than the hand. And so and if you can, you've got great shoulder stretch. It can be a bit of a flexibility issue. But yes, you should feel like you're driving with your elbow and not the hand. But the goal is absolutely to have that feeling that the elbow's driving up. Guys, by the way, can you see the description on this? I don't know if you can. If you can see the description, below this video, make sure that you grab your free link to the Top 50 Fixes live stream that I'm doing on February 8th. That's in 2 Saturdays from now. So in 2 Saturdays, I am doing a 2 hour live free event. So grab your free ticket. Just click the link in the description for the Top 50 Fixes live stream bootcamp. We're going to fix 50 issues in your game. Holy smokes. We're going to do some live analysis of players who send in their videos. I'm going to give away a free Zoom lesson. It's going to be awesome. Leading with the elbow on the forehand as well. So that's a good question, Michael. That's a really good question. Let's talk about that. That's um, very much has to do with the grip that you use. So it depends. Um, if you're more Eastern, no. If you're more Western, sure, but I still want you to maybe not feel like you're doing that, but maybe just let it happen naturally. So let's talk about that. So the question is, should you feel like you're leading with the elbow on the forehand ground stroke? And that's very much tied to the idea of like skipping a rock. And when you skip a rock, you make this move, right? So you're making this move. You can see my palm is up, and it's like I'm skipping a rock. Well, your palm is going to be up if you have a very Western grip. So when you hit a forehand, your palm is facing up when you're using a Western grip. And so what ends up happening is you get the elbow coming forward and leading, and then you can see your strings then face forward as you hit the ball. Well, if you have more of a semi-Western grip, but definitely like an Eastern grip, that's when your elbow is going to be back and the elbow is not going to be forward as much. So I don't like, first off, I'm not a proponent of the full Western grip. I think it hurts more people than it helps. Not like physically. It's not like people are walking around with their arm breaking off. I don't mean that it hurts you like that, but it hurts you in your ability to handle low balls. Typically, it hurts people's ability to hit cross court, like dipping passing shots. They tend to be good at hitting inside out, just the way the contact point points the strings. So the answer to your question is, Michael, yes and no, depends on the grip that you use. But don't think that the more Western you get, the better your forehand. It simply is not that way. It's not like, oh, if only Federer had Hachanov's forehand grip, and we're talking about full Western versus Eastern. Federer's not wishing that he had a full Western grip, and I'm not saying that Hachanov wishes he had Federer's low Eastern grip. I'm not saying that either. It's very much tied to you and the way your body works and what feels comfortable. So experiment with that grip. But if you're using more of a Dimitrov grip, a Federer grip, you're going to have the feeling is that your elbow is going to be back, even with the arm straight. You're going to feel like the elbow's back and not leading coming forward. That was a very good question. A nice segue to that. Very good. All right, let's see here. I struggle with continental grip since I'm used to the forehand grip. Okay, hold on a second. I struggle with the continental grips, even for serves and volleys. Any suggestions? Okay, first off, don't use a continental grip for the volley. I think it's the worst thing that ever happened to recreational volleys. But let's talk about the serve. So I already mentioned it. Um, a couple seconds ago. But if you're struggling with a continental grip on the serve, if you're used to a forehand grip, just look at video footage of your serve. And by the way, you should all be filming yourself so that you know what you actually look like because 9 times out of 10, players have no idea what they look like. I just was on the phone today with a gentleman in South Carolina, and he wanted to he sent me an email, and I said, hey, let's hop on the phone for 5 minutes. And he was inquiring about match analysis, and he wanted me to analyze his serve and his backhand and yada yada. So we're going to do that. But hold on a second, why was I even bringing this up? What was the question? Oh, the the uh the idea of not filming yourself. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. He said he's a good player, but he's played for decades. He said he's never seen himself on video, and he's taken countless lessons. I was appalled. I didn't tell that to him, but I was like, "You've got to be kidding me! You've never seen yourself on video, and it's not his fault. That's like it's like a doctor never taking an X-ray of you if you have a broken arm. It's not your fault. Like they're the ones who ordered the test. Like you're just an innocent bystander here. You have to make sure that you're filming yourself because 9 times out of 10, people have no idea what they look like if they're not actually filming themselves. So when you film yourself serving, I'm willing to bet if you're used to a forehand grip that your strings are pointing down. The key to learning a proper continental grip first is to understand what the grip is. And the grip is your base knuckle of your index finger and your heel pad, those two spots. Oh, geez, sorry, I was a little too close. Oh, look, it drew a heart. I didn't mean to do that. The base knuckle of your index finger and your heel pad on panel number 2. So for you right-handers, it's like this. This is panel number 2. It's this top right? We're looking at an octagon here. The very top panel is number 1. Just put your racket up, straight up and down. This is panel 1. This is panel 2. This is panel 3. I don't call them bevels because people get confused and they think a bevel is where 2 points come together or like 2 sides come together. A bevel is a flat side. So I call them panels so that it's easier for people to understand. So panel 1 is very top. And if you're right-handed, you count to the right. If you're a lefty, you count the panels counting to the left. It's just an octagon. So this is panel number 2. So if you're right-handed, those 2 spots go on the second panel, which is continental. Now, when you do that, that opens up the racket. So if you're used to your strings facing down, or even worse, you're used to bouncing the ball with your racket, well, then that's why you're using a forehand grip because the forehand grip points the strings down. So if you want to change your grip, stop thinking that the grip change on the serve is you changing your hand. You don't change your hand to change the grip on the serve. You just open up the racket and then grab on. And now it's a continental grip. And your hand is not in a different position. You're just changing the racket, not changing the hand. So at the beginning of every serve, I want the beginning of every single serve you hit to have the racket open about 45 degrees. That's going to help you to master the continental. The next thing you got to work on is hit side spin serves, don't hit flat serves. Because if you're used to, for the mindset of having a correct grip, because if you're used to a forehand grip, you're used to hitting flat serves. So you use a continental grip, then it's going to put the racket on edge. So when you hit side spin serves, and there's more to the story, but I'm just trying to make this quick. You just got to make sure that you aim way to the right. So I've got my YouTube play button here, right? So here's the YouTube play button. You might not be able to see this, but that's a signed, autographed picture of Pete Sampras right there, my favorite player ever. If I want to hit the ball to the YouTube play button, then I'm going to swing toward the stairs. And if I swing toward the stairs with a continental grip, watch how the ball goes to the play button. I'm going to swing to the stairs, but the ball goes to the play button. Boom, I hit it perfectly, right? How did I do that? Because the ball goes where my strings point, not where my racket travels. So when I hit that ball, my strings were facing the play button, but my racket traveled over toward the stairs. That's what's going to put the side spin on the ball. And then you're spinning the ball like this. You're spinning like a Harlem Globetrotter, like a basketball player spinning a basketball on their finger. So as you hit the ball, if you want to learn a continental grip on your serve and you're just frustrated because you always resort back to the forehand grip, start with your racket face open. That promotes the actual continental grip. Aim way to the right of your target if you're right-handed. Swing to the right, and that'll point your strings to the left. Yes, there's pronation that occurs. Hello from Germany. Hello, hello. I should say V Gates or right. Uh, I think that's how's it going? Something like that. All right, let's keep going here. You do coaching on hard courts while I play on clay. It's different. You don't have to play that low on clay court while hitting forehands and backhands. You don't have to stay that low on. I don't know what you mean by stay that low. I don't know what you mean by that. I realize that clay courts bounce higher, and the reason the clay court bounces higher is it moves the dirt, which is why you see the mark, and it creates a ramp, and the ball actually jumps up off the ramp. Hey Bryson, what's up? I'm so confused about the forehand. I've studied your content in Great Base. I understand you hitting a C in upward motion, but it looks so different from the pros. Correct. I'll explain. The pro, it's called the Great Base. It's not called the finished product. Okay. So here's the idea. This is the perfect example I can give you. All right. Let me get a here. Let me use an example here. Let me use an example. All right. Okay. So I play the cello and I was teaching my daughter some music. So I got some Christmas music here. So I'm going to use the back of that. All right. So very simple. I am going to write my name in print. A little sloppy, right? Ryan Reedy. Okay. That's my name in print. And then I'm just going to, this isn't my actual signature, but I'm just going to kind of, all right, let's say that's my signature. Okay. Ryan Reedy, Ryan Reedy. Which one would you choose? Which one would you teach a 5-year-old? If there was a 5-year-old kid and their name was Ryan Reedy, would you teach them how to write their name like this? Or would you teach them how to write their name like this? I hope you wouldn't be teaching them cursive. Cursive, or the signature of the swing, is what you see from the pros. When we see the pros hit a forehand, what we see is a finished product. If you try to teach a finished product to a 5 year old when it comes to their signature, or a finished product of a forehand from the pros to a beginner, what you end up is someone who has no base, they have no foundation, and they're not able to fall back on the consistency and the accuracy and the dependability of the shot. So and I, my kids are 12 and 10, but when they were, 5 and 3, if they came home and they didn't learn to print their name, but they were just doing signatures on how to sign a mortgage document, I'd be calling up the school going, why are you teaching them their signature? You haven't even taught them the alphabet, like how to, the dotted lines and the A, you just write A over and over again. And then there's a line of B, B, B. You just keep writing over and over. That's the foundation. I saw, by the way, I don't know if you saw this. I saw watching the Australian Open a video of Yannick Sinner hitting forehands when he was like 12 years old. His forehand looked nothing like it does now. He didn't have like this where the racket was in this position. He didn't have any of that. His forehand when he was 12 years old, it looked like Serena Williams' forehand. Now, the question is why? It's because you don't have to start with the finished product. You can start with the starting product and eventually end to the finished product. See how it works? But I think what has happened is, with all of the video footage that is out there now, because 20 years ago there was nothing, there was no YouTube. Didn't YouTube start in like 2006, or it's somewhere in there? I'm sure someone's going to correct me on this. But let's say 30 years ago, if you learned to play tennis in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, all you did is went to your tennis lessons, the coach taught you what to do, and then you might go home and watch tennis on TV, but there was no YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, and there was no way for you to just dissect in super high def 4K, all this crap. There was nothing. So we've become so analytical that what we have done is we've started to say, oh, I'm a beginner, or I'm a 2.5, or I'm a 3.5, or I'm teaching a 3.5. I'm going to teach them to hit forehands like Yannick Sinner. And what we have done is we've forgotten about the basic bones and structure of the swing. So that's why I have success with my online business. That is why I have success on YouTube. It's because I understand who my market is. I understand who my audience is and who my avatar is. I'm not teaching Roger Federers. I'm teaching Bob and Carol and Sue and Juan and Jorge and Dimitrov and Dimitri. I'm teaching like normal people who are 3.5 and they want to be a 4.0, or they're a 2.5 and they want to be a 3.0, or they're a 4.5 and they want to be a 5.0. That's the key to success as a coach. Is Look, Bryson, there's no such thing as teaching. There's only learning. I can teach. I got my NFC champion Eagles cup here. I can teach a cup to hit a forehand, but since it can't learn, I didn't teach. Teaching is it's like it's nothing, right? It's fugazi. You ever seen that? Wolf of Wall Street. All right, it's nothing. There's no such thing as teaching. There's only learning. So if the person you're teaching can't learn what you're teaching, then what are you doing? You got to make sure that you teach people the basics of all the swings. Go Chiefs. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Hey, go Chiefs and the refs, right? Holy smokes. I've never seen a 50-50 call go against the Chiefs in the last 5 years. And you would agree too, Jack. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got. Wondering, how would you advise against supination? How would I advise against supination on a more vertical path where the supination doesn't change the contact angle, but you just give more upward racket speed at contact? Anant, are you talking about a forehand or backhand? What stroke are you talking about, Anant? What stroke are you talking about? Just wondering, would you advise against supination on a more vertical path where the supination doesn't change the contact angle, but just gives more upward racket speed at contact? Are you talking about on a topspin serve? Thanks, Tennis Journal. Thanks, man. Gotcha. Yeah. So on the one-handed backhand, um, okay. So I am not a fan of a dramatic amount of supination on the one-hander. All right. So the supination, and I think this is more on a high ball. I'll tell you this and not. But on a high ball, you might find yourself making this move where you kind of feel like you're doing this, which is supination. Supination is palm up. Um, on the lower ball, I would say no. Do not feel like you're supinating as you're hitting the ball. You can do it down here to close the racket face and make this move, but then try to keep that angle, the wrist angle, the same. As you know, I'm a big fan of finishing with the racket if you're right-handed to the left of your hand. Like I'm not a fan of this. And then you'll see pros do that 95% of the time. They finish a backhand and they're over here, but they don't do that on return of serve or down the line passing shots or when they don't have a lot of time or when they're blocking a ball. They really go to keeping the racket to this side of the hand to keep this angle. And it just allows them to control the racket face. So that motion is more high ball than low ball if you're going to make this move where the racket ends up finishing over to the right side of your hand. Thanks, David. Thank you. That's so nice. Um, Oh, how fast do I need to swing to get the racket flip? It's not about how fast you swing, it's about how loose you are. But here and so when that person is talking about the racket flip, they're talking about forehand, where the racket falls to the outside of the hand, and then you make this move. Now, please understand that no matter what video you watch online, and you listen to Mr. Ooh La La talking about parfait and all these 17 different languages he's speaking. Um, with the great hair, please understand that first off, he always has like really high level players demonstrating what he's doing. You also just get this edited snippet, right? So it looks like, oh, if only I could be on the court with that guy. The problem is when I just, in my experience, when you try to flip and you try to make this happen, it's either you do it or you don't do it. Either you do it or yeah, that's right. PM. Either you do it or you don't do it. And I can just if you're trying to make this move, if you're saying how fast do I have to swing, it's a tightness thing for you. So maybe you're squeezing very tightly, but but I know for myself, I am no pro tennis player. I don't pretend to be a pro tennis player. Yes, yes. But I do my best. I hit my best forehands when I'm a little tighter in the forearm. Yeah, Mr. Tight Shorts. So I know for me, if I'm super loose, like you'll hear from that particular PM coach that like the looser the better, and he tells you to like throw the racket. Okay, that makes you really loose and accelerate, but you can't control the ball. And you can control the ball if it's edited on a video, but it's not as easy as you think. So please don't put the racket flip on a pedestal that if only I did that, I would hit better forehands. Because I see so many players who learn that and their forehand gets worse. Is it fair to say ATP forehands and lags mostly come from body rotation combined with larger muscle groups focus and the arm just goes long for the ride instead of the arm? Yes, 100% right. Yes. Yep. Now, let's talk about that, Kevin, because there's a reason why players struggle to turn the body. And I have not seen one coach, well, except yours truly, I have not seen one coach address this properly. Coaches will talk about the symptom, they will not talk about the cause. So you will hear all the time, and it doesn't take long to watch YouTube videos and to see coaches say that you've got to rotate the body. You got to rotate the body. If you're not rotating on your forehand, right? I just want consistency. Correct. Yes. So no wrist, no wrist, and you'll get consistency. But here's the goal. When you are hitting a forehand, the reason you got to turn the body is because your hitting shoulder is in back. right? So when you hit a forehand and you turn for a forehand, your hitting shoulder is in back. Unlike on a one-handed backhand, your hitting shoulder is in front. Your hitting shoulder is in front, so if you rotate a lot, you open up and it moves the racket away from your target. But if on a forehand you rotate, it moves the racket towards your target. So you have to rotate on a forehand, or it's best to. But the reason people don't rotate on the forehand and they hit and they do this and they arm the ball is because of the non-hitting hand. I guarantee you what I'm about to teach you, we all want consistency. That's right. I guarantee you that what I'm about to teach you, you have never heard from another coach. And if you have, then correct me and tell me where you also heard this information. There is a very interesting relationship that is critical for you to learn on the forehand when it comes to the direction the racket travels and the non-hitting arm. The racket, when you turn for the unit turn, you rotate the body, have your elbows out, don't have your elbows in, get your elbows out, let people smell your armpits. Turn, hand, elbow, shoulder, all the same height, non-hitting hand on the throat of the racket. And then from here, the racket's going to go down. Now, the racket might use more of like a triangular motion. You'll see some pros are more triangular, some pros are more circular. I'm not talking about that right now. I'm just simply speaking that the racket from here has to go down, right? When the racket goes down, the non-hitting hand has to go forward. So check this out. Racket down, non-hitting hand forward. When all of you send me videos of your forehands and you want me to analyze them, I have a checklist in my mind of, let's say on your forehand, there are like 20 things I look for, whatever the number is. One of those things is when the racket drops, did their non-hitting hand clear? You may have seen on YouTube videos that I make that I teach you that at contact, you should look like you're waving to the opponent. See, you can tell the level of someone at contact just looking at a picture. You send me a photo of your forehand, not a video, a photo of your forehand at contact, and I'll tell you what your level of play is. And all I have to do is look at the height of the non hitting hand. If your non hitting hand is down, you're a low level player. If your non hitting hand is high, you're a high level player. Are there exceptions to this? Of course. Rublev would be one of them, whereas non hitting hand is here. But I have to like mention one. Most pros are in this position. Their hand is here, their hand is here, their hand is here, their hand is here, right? It's like somewhere in this range. Why? Because they turned for the unit turn with both hands on, and as the racket went down, they cleared the non-hitting hand. That makes sure that they can rotate the body. What you don't want to do when you turn for a forehand is point to the ball or reach out like you're going to grab the ball, because from the side view, that's when people hug themselves. So if you're a coach, you know exactly what I'm about to demonstrate, or you've seen this 100 times, like 100 times since last Tuesday. It's happened that often. You see people separate their hands and then they go like this and they hug themselves. And if you've never noticed it, it's not because it ain't happening. It's because you haven't noticed it. It's happening on every single court around you. Players hit the ball and their non hitting arm drops. And coaches say, oh, you got to turn the hips. I saw a well known coach. He has more subscribers than I do on YouTube. And he was teaching someone and addressing turning the body. And the student's arm was dropping. And I said to myself, that is a band-aid on the problem. It is not fixing the problem. And that player is going to go back to their home club and they're going to be right back where they were, because the arm dropping was causing their arms to negate each other and the body couldn't turn. Right? Zero net force here. And then you just hug yourself. You've got to clear this non-hitting arm out of the way so that the body is able to rotate and then you can hit. So if you're struggling with body rotation on the forehand, you've got to make sure that one, you take the racket back during the unit turn with both hands. And then as the racket drops, you're clearing your non-hitting hand. That's why I teach everyone wave to the opponent when you strike the ball. If you look at yourself from the back view hitting a forehand, you should see your non-hitting hand over your non-hitting shoulder. Notice right now, you can see my left hand over my left shoulder as I strike the ball. That's the way to make sure that you're able to uncoil properly and turn the shoulders and turn the hips. I love going live. This is so fun. Look at this. We got 59 people here, but only 30 likes. Oh, oh, that hurts my heart. Hey, how do you avoid pushing the ball when hitting a forehand? Do you have a wrist lag, yet the wrist is not pronate after windshield wiper? Okay, good question, Oliver. All right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Um, if you're looking to not push the ball, then think of it this way. Move the racket. Okay, you've all heard of the windshield wiper, right? So you got the windshield wiper concept. So think of it as a rainbow. Okay, take the rainbow and turn it 90 degrees. So it's like, if you're right-handed, it's like the closing parenthesis, right? So you're writing, you write something in parentheses, the closing parenthesis. This right here, okay? This is what you want to think of. Move the racket from below your hand to above your hand. So this, if you're someone who pushes, all right, you got to close the racket face. This is critical. So you got to make sure that when that racket drops and you're going to clear the non-hitting hand, that the racket doesn't drop on edge. It's got to close. That way you can spin. That allows you to put spin on the ball. But here's the key. Move the racket from below your hand to above your hand. Below to above, and then over the shoulder. And since you were waving when you struck the ball, you can just catch the racket, which, by the way, is why I advise people to catch the racket. I understand. And people say, why do, in their mom's basement, they're coming at me like, you're such an idiot. This isn't 1978, Ryan. I'm like, I'm well aware of that. Uh, Catching the first off, the pros don't catch the racket. Back to Bryson's question, like the pros don't catch the racket. Yeah, because they're hitting 100-mile-an-hour forehands. Barbara from down the street is just hoping to make a 25-mile-an-hour forehand that goes in. She needs to catch the racket. But when you catch, it encourages you to wave when you strike the ball. See how that works? But we want to move the racket from below the hand to above the hand. This move. Now, what I am not saying is roll over the ball, because you can't. You can't touch the ball and then turn the racket and then have the ball leave. Like rolling over the ball will never put spin on the ball. Spin is created when your strings face in one direction and your racket travels in a different direction. So you want to make this move. So notice my racket is staying at the same angle. Like I'm not opening and then closing. I'm not flipping a pancake with a spatula on the stove. That's not what I'm doing. My racket is staying at a constant angle. This is how you create consistency, because I can hit the ball now, 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 now. I can like be off time. The ball's still going to go in. I don't have to time the contact perfectly where I somehow get the perfect shot and then the ball's gone and then I turn. The goal is that the racket stays at the same angle as you go up. But if you want to really spin it and stay away from the push, you can think of this move ever so slightly, where you're drawing that parenthesis and then the racket goes right over the shoulder, or that's what you see with Nadal and he makes that move. So that's the way you can think of not pushing the ball. I was told not to hold the racket tightly. Yeah, I mean, I hold the racket tightly because it helps me to hit better forehands. If I'm like a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10, my forehand is awful. I've learned a modern forehand, but in matches I often get distracted and revert to the old flat forehand. How can I consistently hit the new forehand? Brian, good question. You got to make sure. And again, for all of you, by the way, this is what I do. If you want me to analyze your game, and analyze your forehand, your backhand, your serve. Like you can't just watch videos. You need like an expert eye, that would be myself, looking at your game. I teach people around the world every single day. Whether it's live on Zoom, we meet live on Zoom and they send me videos of their matches, or they send me videos of their forehand, backhand, serve, and we dissect them over an hour's time. It's awesome. So send me an email, Ryan at 2minutetennis.net. Ryan at 2minutetennis.net and inquire. But it'll be the best tennis lesson you ever take. I can tell you that. So how can we get topspin and not hit so flat? Okay, so what are the pillars of hitting topspin? I just mentioned it. For someone who hits very flat, what you're going to notice when you film yourself on video, and you should be all filming yourself on video, every time you go out to play, you should film yourself. When the racket drops, most likely the racket is dropping on edge. where I don't know if I have a coin here. Not that you don't understand. Here, I'll use this. I'll use my tennis ball from the strategy board, right? So best angle is back view and side view. So back view for matches, and then back view and side view for any stroke. So you can see I've got the tennis ball magnet on my racket. If you're a flat hitter, that's how your racket is dropping. And then you're going very flat into the back of the ball. What you have to do is feel your palm face down toward the ground. You have to feel that your racket gets tilted down below, I'm sorry, pointing the strings down at the ground. And the reason is because that's the only time you're going to drop below contact. Like, people always talk about swing low to high. You cannot, well, I mean, you can do anything you want, but you can't swing low to high if your racket is straight up and down like a knife going through butter. Because if you drop below the ball, your racket face is going to be open. This is why beginners hit over the fence all the time, because they're taught low to high swing before they're ever taught to close the racket face. You'll go to a beginner lesson and they'll say, racket back, swing over the shoulder, racket back, swing over the shoulder. And while the student is doing that, their strings are straight up and down in the back because their brain is like, oh, I want the racket straight up and down when I hit the ball. So let's prepare that way. And they don't understand the pendulum effect of the swing and how the racket face changes throughout the approach to the ball. So when your racket drops, you've got to tilt the racket down. And you do that by turning your palm to the ground. Now, some people do it by just having an extreme grip. But Federer closes his racket face just as much as Nadal, and his grip was nowhere near, if you know what I mean by that, but it's really nowhere near the Nadal grip. But you just tilt your palm toward the ground. Now your racket can be below the ball, and now you can swing from below contact to above contact. See, when you hit, you got to hit. Hey, what's up? What's up? Hey, Roderick. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Peyton Roderick. Okay. Or maybe it's Roderick Payton. I'm not sure. All right. So when you hit a topspin forehand, you're trying to hit the ball like this. So one thing you can do if you're struggling to hit topspin, and this is for your forehand, your backhand, one hand or two hander, it doesn't matter, is practice hitting the bottom of the ball. If any of you have a racket or tennis ball nearby, just go like this, right? And if you're a coach, have your students do this. Just hold a ball out in front of you and just hit the bottom of the ball, or the south pole of the ball, if you will, with the top side of the racket. Okay. Then you can even, that drill where people go like this and they just bounce the ball in their racket, right? Now, you don't want to hold the continental grip in that way, but actually want you to try to hit the bottom of the ball with the top edge of the racket. Hit the bottom of the ball with the top edge of the racket. The reason this helps is because now what you're learning to do is to lead with the frame of the racket toward the ball. See, watch me do this with the Topspin Pro again. Watch how, as I get closer to the ball, you can tell, like, I'm really leading with the edge, but then I miss the edge and I spin and I make this move. The reason players hit flat is because if the racket had eyes, the racket could see the ball. If your racket has eyes, you don't want it to see the ball. Sorry, I had to check what time it is. I got to go pick up my daughter soon from school. So you don't want the eyes of your racket to see the ball. You want the eyes of the racket pointing down slightly and then lead with the edge of the racket. So if you have a ball machine, I want you to learn, turn with both hands as the racket drops, clear the non-hitting hand and make this move right here. I want you to learn to hit the bottom of the ball with the top edge of the racket. I made a very popular video over the summer teaching this exact topic, is to try to hit the bottom of the ball with the top edge. This is no different than telling people to hit the edge of the racket on the serve, right? You're leading with the edge. When you do this, you will sometimes hit the frame, and the ball like shoots straight up in the air. Maybe it lands on your head. But most of the time, what happens is you spin right up the back of the ball. And you will finally learn to have your strings facing in one direction and your racket traveling in a different direction. So if you really struggle to hit topspin, stop trying to hit the strings and try to hit the south pole of the ball with a follow through over the shoulder. you will miss the edge most of the time, and you'll actually spin the ball like never before. You actually get the true spin and the arc and the height over the net and the consistency that you're looking for. Love to know if you think the flicking of the wrist on the one-handed backhand is wrong, or is it too advanced for recreational players? Seem the majority of players finish on the right side of the V. Correct. This is going back to the question that was asked at the beginning. Was you know printing your name versus signature? I know it's easy to understand this, but printing signature, and that's not my real signature, but I just kind of scribbled. But which would you teach a 5-year-old? Which one would you teach? How to sign a bank document or how to print the name? And everyone in the world of tennis, especially YouTube videos, like I watch some YouTube videos and I just want to contact the coach and say, who do you think is watching your videos? Like, who do you think is watching these videos? Do you think like Roger Federer himself sits down and just watches your videos to figure out how to hit better forehands? There are way too many videos from way too many coaches who are talking about things that would take 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, and world class athleticism to pull off. And so, one of the things is trying to roll the racket as you hit a backhand. And this is always the argument because I'll teach on the one handed backhand, drop and close the racket face, and then finish as a right hander with the left side of the letter V. And people say, well, the pros don't do that. You're right. And Indy 500 drivers drive 200 miles an hour. Does that mean I should? Right? You got to understand the situation. I can tell you this: the last time you hit, sorry, the last time you played a match and you lost, and you were driving home, thinking to yourself, you weren't thinking, man, if I'd only hit my backhand harder. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I'm going to contact Ryan at 2 Minute Tennis. I need to figure out how to hit my backhand harder. When we lose and we're driving home and we're all frustrated, we think about our misses. We think about when we miss. I kept missing my backhand. I couldn't keep the ball in play. My first serve never went in. We're not talking, it's not like we're so consistent and only if we hit it 10 miles an hour average faster, all of a sudden our shots would be better. It's that we are missing. We need to reduce errors. And when you're right handed, finishing in the left side of the letter V, the way all the pros do on return of serve and down the line passes, and when they don't have a lot of time, anytime they're trying to, like on the rise, anytime they're trying to really pinpoint their consistency and accuracy, that's the type of technique that we want to copy. Why? Because none of us are world class athletes. None of us. Not a single one. If you're on this live stream, not one of us would win a single point against Novak Djokovic. Not one. We would not win one. All right, let's see here. So much great advice. Thank you. We'll try the closing parenthesis. You got it. Hitting south of the ball with the frame. Awesome. Thanks. Um, Ryan, off topic. Hey, Scott. About junior girls under 9. Yeah, high, low, high. Grip changes with high, low, high. High, low, high. When they turn, high, low, high. Backhand. Not too high, not as high as the one-hander, or not as high as the one-hander or the forehand. It's a little bit lower, so you can think on the two-hander, it's more medium, low, high. Learn that swing path. So think of more of a Ferris wheel. The tennis court is almost 3 times longer than it is wide. If it were 3 feet longer, it would be 3 times longer than it is wide. So we want to try to use, especially for kids, we're trying to use a swing shape that helps them to keep the ball in the court. Also, 9 years old, teach them to go to the net. They're going to not have success, but you've got to understand the footwork and the court positioning and the guts to go to the net. Because there are so many kids who dominate in 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And then they go to the 18s, and all they are is like when people tell me they're an aggressive baseliner, you got it, Scott. When people tell me, and if you have any kids you'd like me to analyze, just send me a message. Just look at my bio, and you can hear on YouTube my about, and just send me an email. Ryan at 2minutetennis.net. If you're a coach, I do a lot of analysis for coaches for their students, where I meet with the coach and I meet with the parent and the student. So the four of us are all on the live stream, the live Zoom, and then I analyze their forehands, backhands for them. So if you're a coach, if you're a dad, then I would suggest we do that as well. Um, I forget what I was going to say. Okay, let's keep going here. Maybe not the easiest question to describe, but I will try my best. Mario, you didn't describe anything. You didn't say it. Hey Ryan, I've been trying to get to 5-0. That was what my level was when I stopped playing, and I've really been having trouble with my shoulder. I'm scrawny little dude, and I've been icing. What do you recommend? Strength conditioning. Love you. Okay, thanks, Brandon. So that is definitely not my forte. I want you to type this up. Go on Instagram and look up Pultro Performance. Pultro, Pultro. Tyler Pultro, one of my former students. The guy is an absolute master. He's trained the U.S. Olympic ski team. The guy's just amazing with this stuff. Check out Pultro Performance. Send him a private message, DM him, and say, "Hey, Ryan, 2 Minute Tennis sent you." Um, he's the guy who's going to be able to answer all those questions. How do you hit a hard forehand without thinking about using force? Do you have to rotate your hips more? Yeah, so here's what I'm going to say. Let's talk about strategy because everyone wants harder and bigger and stronger and more power, but I can tell you that hitting harder isn't necessary if you go to the net correctly. So let's talk about this, and then I've got to go pick up my daughter at school. So understand something. You only need harder and harder, and hitting the ball with great pace if you're constantly standing behind the baseline. See, people who go to the net constantly never ask for people who go to the net a lot, they don't ask for more power, right? It's the mystery. How does Usain Bolt run so fast? Is it that he knows techniques that these other runners don't? No, it's just he can move his arms and his body and his legs faster. That's really what it is, guys. We don't want to overthink this, right? We don't want to overthink this. So when you play, understand something. When you say that you're an aggressive baseliner, what you're really saying is that you're a pusher and you stay behind the baseline. That's what an aggressive baseliner is. Because aggressive baseliner to me is people who hit the it's I'm a pusher, like I don't go to the net or I don't like to go to the net, but I hit the ball much harder than a pusher. An aggressive baseliner is like a sexy way of just saying I'm a pusher, but I'm not as consistent. So please stop trying to just be aggressive baseliners where you're just crushing the ball. Look at the stats. When the pros go to the net, they win. If you take all the points, I haven't looked at the stats, but if you look at all the points, let's say Zverev, if you look at the points when Zverev was coming up to the net, he won more points than he lost. I guarantee it that he was above 50%. But behind the baseline, way below 50%. That's the way it works. You win here, you lose back here. So if you want to start changing the fortunes of your matches, stop trying to necessarily hit the ball um, harder or keep it away from them. If you really want to change the fortunes, singles and doubles, start changing where you stand because that's actually what dictates where you can hit the ball. For instance, people say, how do I keep the ball away from my opponent? How do I keep the ball away from my opponent? And I watch them play and they're standing 10 feet behind the baseline. And the answer is you can't. You're never going to keep the ball away from your opponent. How can I hit better angles? And they're standing 10 feet behind the baseline. There's no angle from back there. Angle comes from being up here. And so people, it's right. Nobody or everyone wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die, right? Like people aren't willing to do what it takes to get the result that they're looking for. So when you come to the net, then you're able to hit the angle. But people think the net is old school. Like what? Old school? You mean a layup in basketball is old school? Like literally layups, like not good. No, right? If you're here, first off, when you come to the net, half the time you don't even have to hit a ball. half the time your opponent just screws it up. I see it every day. People send me videos of their matches. I sit down with them live on Zoom. People are scared of the volley. Yeah, the reason is because they use a one grip system, and the one grip system doesn't work in recreational tennis. But I digress. So you should be using slightly different grips on forehand and backhand volley, and then your volleys become amazing. But when you're at the net, half the time your opponent just avoids you and they just avoid the court. And the other half, the goal is, since they usually hit it hard, they're going to hit up here. And then you can hit the angle away from them and actually win the point. All right, let's see how much time we have. And then, all right, good. I'm going to be on for about 10 more minutes. And then I got to go. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, you stay at the baseline way too much. Yep. Let's go back to some other questions. I'll leave you all with this. There is one moment in singles and doubles where players don't split step, and it is the most detrimental to the success or their ability to win the point. It isn't right after the serve. It isn't on the return of serve. It isn't in the rally. It isn't when they're at the net. It's not. The most common time I see players not split stepping, and it causes them to lose, is when they're going to the net. So they hit a strong shot into the corner and they come forward and the opponent barely gets there, but they don't split step. And let's say the ball goes right here and they can't change direction. The purpose of a split step, it's part braking mechanism, right? So you're driving a car and you're going fast around a corner. You're like, man, I should have slowed down. We've all driven a little too fast around a corner. So to make sharp turns in your car or with your body, you got to pump the brakes. Well, the split step allows for you to pump the brakes. But then what it does is it loads up the energy, and then you can actually explode for a faster first step. So it allows for fast directional changes, but not just, I should say, sharp directional changes, not just a sharp directional change, but you're kind of shot out of a cannon when that happens, right? When players go forward and they split step, then no matter if it comes to their feet, if it's a lob, left, right, now they're able to change direction, go back if it's a lob. It is the single most important time to split step in recreational tennis because most serves aren't super, super fast. And I wish everyone would split step no matter the situation. But every time your opponent hits the ball, you should split step. But the single most detrimental time to not split step is when you're going to the net. This is why when you serve and volley, it's like a pre-planned footwork. It's serve 1, 2, 3 split step. You take 3 steps when you serve and volley. Watch the pros. This is what they do. They serve, and I'm going to serve from back here because I have to run forward. So they serve, and then 1, 2, 3 split step. That's it. When you serve and volley, you don't serve and just run. It's serve, and then you land, and that's step 1, step 2, step 3, split step. And the split step, I'll show you where the split step occurs. The split step occurs in no man's land. When you serve and volley, this is you. Here's your opponent. You serve, you come in, 1, 2, 3, split step. That's where the split step occurs, singles or doubles. It doesn't matter. Now, some people say, yeah, but I can run really fast, Ryan. Okay. Then that's where your split step is. It's like a half an inch farther on the board. Like you're not going to get to the service line when you serve and volley. You're not. You're like not one of you can get to the service line by the time the opponent hits the ball. Not one of you. And if you can, that means your serve is so slow that you shouldn't be serving and volleying to begin with. So when you hit an approach shot, 1, 2, 3 split step. Hit an approach shot, 1, 2, 3 split step. Hit your serve, 1, 2, 3 split step. After you hit an approach shot, after you hit your serve, if you want to serve and volley, 1, 2, 3 split step is what you're looking for. Thank you all so much. I do have to run, pick up my daughter from school. Hey, really quickly. So, in the description of this video, I've got 68 of you. I've just poured my heart and soul. I would love if you would stay on. We did an hour. This is awesome. We've been on here for an hour. In the description of this video, yeah, you check Rafter, see where he is. Stop the video when the opponent is making contact with the ball and see where he is. Everyone thinks they're on the other side of the service line. The first volley is at the service line. The split step is like just past the center of no man's land. The first volley, whenever you serve and volley, first volley is straddling the service line. So, in the description of this video, of this live, you are going to find a link to the top 50 fixes live stream boot camp that I'm holding February 8th. That's not very long from now. That's in 2 Saturdays. You got it. You got it. 1, 2, 3. I recognize your handle. So, you were on here last time I was live. So, thank you so much. And 1, 2, 3, Rockchild, I hope you got the free link. So, in the description, grab your free link in 2 Saturdays. You got it. Thanks, Lark. I am holding what I'm calling the top 50 fixes live stream. We're going to talk about 50 common mistakes that recreational players make, and I'm going to give you the solution from footwork to strategy, singles and doubles, serve, net, forehand, backhand, return serve, everything. We're going over everything, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. So grab your free ticket, click the link in the description, and you'll see it right there. So thank you all so much. For all of you who are live and maybe you like can't figure out where the description is or whatever, this is going to be posted on my channel. So maybe it'll be on here later on. Oh, somebody just grabbed the link right now. So congratulations. Oh, just got another person who just grabbed the link. Oh, we just got another person who just grabbed the link. Holy smokes, they're popping up. So we just had 3 people join the link. Thanks, Sounder. Thanks. Yeah. So I just had 3 people grab the link right now. Cool. So it's going to be absolutely awesome. It's going to be run very similar to this, but I'm also going to be giving away a free Zoom lesson with me. I'm also going to be analyzing some people who send their videos in. It's going to be really, really fun. I just had a 4th person just now. You don't see the link. That's okay, Dan. Dan, send me an email, ryan@2minutetennis.net. Don't worry about it. Send me an email, ryan@2minutetennis.net, and say, yo, this is Dan Link from YouTube. And I'll send you the link to grab your ticket. So thank you all very much. I will see you soon. And if you want me to analyze your game or anything, just hit me up as well. All right. Talk to you guys. You got this.